I'm on a bike ride in my neighborhood right now, and I'm seeing some pretty beautiful clouds.
These are cumulus clouds. When you're outside on a bright sunny day, you might see hundreds of them. Like all clouds, they're formed when water vapor in our atmosphere sticks to tiny particles of dust and salt and pollution floating around in the sky, called aerosols. When water vapor hits an aerosol, it transforms into water droplets or ice crystals. And when enough of those come together, they form clouds. Every cloud is packed with information, and knowing a bit about them can help you tell the difference between a cloud that'll disappear in a few minutes and one that could ruin your picnic. To really know what's going on in a cloud, you have to go right inside it. That's what atmospheric scientists do.
I use satellite data, aircraft data, and even sometimes weather balloon data to understand these processes associated with clouds and precipitations.
That's Dr. Myra Oyola. She's an atmospheric scientist who works at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab. She's also very good at identifying clouds, like those cumulus ones. Cumulus means heap in Latin, and you can kind of see why. They look like big heaps of cotton. I saw a bunch when I was on a bike ride in August.
These clouds are normally present when we have fair weather or good weather, so it's a good day to go outside and play.
Cumulus are one of the 10 most common cloud types, which scientists started defining all the way back in 1802. There's also stratus, which means layer. They cover the sky like a blanket.
They vary in color, so you can see some that they're whiter, but they can be grayish. And they're normally associated with what we call fair weather.
Our friend Anna in Michigan spotted some of those.
The weather today is nice and warm.
Cirrus, which means curl, look like wisps of hair high in the sky. My coworker Agnes found those above Lake Michigan in Chicago.
Cirrus clouds, because they're so high, they're very cold. They're mostly ice, very tiny particles of ice, and they're short-lived.
And there's nimbus, which means rain.
They're normally seen during a thunderstorm along thunder and lightning.
These 4 basic cloud shapes, combined with how high they are in the sky, create the most common clouds, like Cirrostratus clouds, which exist above 7,000 meters.
They're kind of like thin sheets that spread across the sky. These clouds are interesting because they tend to be useful to do weather forecasting in the sense that they can tell you if there's precipitation or snowstorm coming within 12 to 24 hours.
Altostratus and altocumulus clouds hover a bit lower, between 2,000 and 7,000 meters. They often form a sheet, like these fluffy autocumulus ones Vox producer Laura saw in Maine.
If you see them in the morning, this is a tip for weather forecasting. What it means is that you need to be prepared because they're normally produced ahead of thunderstorms.
Altostratus are less puffy, more like one big blanket.
They normally thicken into being more type of rain-bearing clouds like Nimbostratus.
If you see a low, dark gray blanket of clouds, you're probably looking at Nimbostratus. And it's probably already raining, like it was the other day in my backyard.
Really coming down out here.
Rain often comes from cumulonimbus clouds, too. They tower from close to the ground to really high in the sky.
They're not going to be your classical white puffy clouds. They're probably going to be darker and grayish. They're very distinct and very easy to identify.
When you look at this chart, it seems pretty simple to tell the difference between these clouds. But in reality, it can get a little tricky. For example, look at this photo my friend Jess took while canoeing.
These are definitely cumulus and cirrus clouds. We know that cumulus are associated with fair weather. However, in this particular case, I can probably tell that there was a storm before the picture was taken. For the most part, storms tend to expand all over the atmosphere, so you have impacts of the storm really high up, and cirrus clouds tend to be really high up in the atmosphere.
During sunrise or sunset, it's pretty common to see a colorful mix of clouds in the sky.
It's very specific in the sunset because you obviously have a very sharp change in temperature going on at the time.
Those 10 clouds we just talked about make up nearly all the clouds in the world. But what about the ones that don't fit on this chart? Like here, on top of Mount Fuji in Japan. Mountain ranges and other high obstructions disrupt the normal flow of air. As air moves over the mountains, sinking air warms and rising air cools, which creates these lenticular clouds. They look like fluffy UFOs. Extreme weather can bring unusual clouds all over the world. Imagine you're sitting outside and you start to see these bumpy, baggy clouds roll in. They're called momentous clouds, and they usually come along with thunder, lightning, and rain.
Are mostly composed of ice. Basically, the ice falls and you have these pouches extending sometimes hundreds of miles in any direction.
Ice crystals help create these weird clouds too, called fall streak holes. Scientists think they're created when ice crystals in a cloud form really quickly and then either evaporate or sink to the ground.
So they leave this big hole around the center of the cloud.
Some clouds don't even come from nature. These are called contrails, which just means condensation trails. They're made of water vapor from a plane's exhaust and mimic nature's wispy cirrus clouds, meaning they're high up and they disappear really quickly.
Because clouds are above us, we tend not to give them a second thought. But they are super important because they not only regulate temperature on the planet, but they're also the primary drivers of rain and precipitation, which we need to live.
For us observers on the ground, it takes practice to identify clouds.
A good tip is to have a cloud chart. With a cloud chart, it's very easy to at least distinguish the clouds that are at the bottom and the clouds that you normally tend to see at the top. The clouds that are on the middle layers are probably the most tricky ones.
There are lots of communities out there for cloud watchers, like the Cloud Appreciation Society, which accepts submissions of clouds from all over the world and adds them to photo galleries online. If you're ever stumped by a cloud, it might help to look at it from above. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has a near real-time satellite view of clouds that you can access online. When you combine all these tools together, you can start making predictions about your day, just based on the clouds above you.
I think that those clouds mean that it will be nice for the next couple of hours.
Those big white wispy clouds up there mean that it is going to be nice.
The cloud chart we made for this video was super helpful when I was first learning how to identify clouds, especially when it came to telling the difference between the basic ones like cirrus and stratus and cumulus. To download and print out your own cloud chart, like the one we use in the video, get permission from your parent or guardian to go to the link below, or have them do it for you. Happy cloud hunting!